All right, well, welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about different stages of sleep. But first, we have to talk about what are called circadian rhythms. So these are the natural biological body rhythms that regulate our sleep wake cycles. They are controlled in the brain by what's referred to as the suprachiasmatic nucleus, also known as the SCN. So this is the biological clock. This regulates our sleep wake cycles, as we just mentioned. And this is what's going to tell you when it's time to fall asleep, when it's time to wake up, and so on and so forth. And if you listen to your biological rhythms, then you should not have any types of sleep disturbances, especially insomnia. But it's when we stop listening to our body rhythms and stay up longer than we should or sleep in later than we should, that's when we run into some problems. So we'll talk about those later on when we talk about different types of sleep disorders in the next section. But for now, we're going to be talking about the different types of stages of sleep. So we have our circadian rhythms. In this diagram right here, you can see the suprachiasmatic nucleus is located right here in the green. And that little area right there is what controls your sleep-wake cycles. Over here, this is your pineal gland. Now, this is an important brain structure also for sleeping and waking because what the pineal gland does, it releases a hormone called melatonin. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard of melatonin before, and if you go down to like a GNC store, you could get melatonin supplements as a sleep aid, and they do actually help you fall asleep. So this is the natural substance that's produced within the brain to help regulate your sleep-wake cycles. So that's what melatonin is. And then also we have what are called zeitgebers. These are stimuli, such as the dawn of day, that's going to reset your circadian rhythms. And basically we operate along a 24-hour cycle where we adjust to the daylight and the sunset. And this is why some people, especially those up in Alaska, will have some sleep disturbances during the winter months because they go pretty much 24 hours without seeing the sun, and that causes a lot of sleep problems up there. Also, people run into sleep problems because of the time change. Also, when you're traveling distances in an airplane from, say, the west coast to the east coast, those type of subtle differences can also cause various types of sleep problems for us. So those are circadian rhythms. We'll be talking about those as we go along through this chapter, and they're also mentioned in the Rebel chapter for this week. So make sure you pay attention in the textbook when they go over those because these are really important for regulating sleep-wake cycles. Now, moving on to our sleep cycles, what's going to happen is that when we sleep at night, we're going to go through anywhere between 3 to 5, maybe 6 sleep cycles. Kind of depends on how many hours a night you sleep. And so the first 4 stages, stage 1, 2, 3, and 4, these are referred to as non-REM. REM stands for rapid eye movement. That's going to be occurring at stage 5. And REM activity is a behavioral indicator that we are dreaming. So when you dream at night, which occurs in stage 5 sleep, you'll have rapid movement of your eyeballs underneath your eyelids. So that's the indicator that we are in a dream state. And that's how we actually know that everyone does dream because everyone is going to go through a REM state. Also, what's kind of interesting is that if you do have animals at home, when you watch your, for example, your dog sleep at night, you'll notice that they also go through stages of REM sleep. And in fact, a lot of dogs have similar characteristics as humans do, and you'll see these as we go through the different stages of sleep coming up next. And so anyways, so that's what's going to happen. So we're going to go through these stages of sleep every few hours throughout our night's sleep. And what's going to happen is that in the first couple of stages, we spend more time in stages 1 and 2, which is light sleep. And towards the end of the night, we spend more time in our deeper stages of sleep. So that's why if you only sleep 1 or 2 hours at night, you're going to feel very tired, very lethargic the next morning because you're not getting the amount of deep sleep that you actually need. So it is important that we do get our standard 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night to make sure that we are getting our full complement of sleep and we are fully rested for the next day's activities. So anyways, so let's move on to the different stages of sleep. First, we have stage 1. This is when a person is sitting on a couch or maybe laying in bed reading a book, and you're slowly going to start to feel a little bit drowsy. And in fact, you may start to doze off a little bit where you start to have some muscle twitching. This is where your muscles just kind of flicker back and forth. And basically what's happening there is that the brain is still sending muscle commands to the motor neurons that produces this type of movement. And what you'll notice is that when a person moves very quickly from a state of waking to a state of sleep, especially when they're really sleep deprived, that these muscle twitches can be more pronounced. In fact, in some cases, they can actually just jerk you awake. That's how strong they can actually become. So we have the muscle twitching. Also, a good example here is maybe your dad is sitting on his recliner watching television. He'll start to doze off and start to snore. He'll say, "Hey, Dad, you're falling asleep." He'll say, "Oh, I'm just resting my eyes." So he'll deny that he's in a state of sleep because he's just kind of sitting there resting, but actually it is a state of light sleep. And also, this is where you'll have an interesting phenomenon known as hypnagogic hallucinations. So what happens here is that you kind of get a mixture of the waking state and the sleeping state combined. So for example, if you're sitting on the couch, you're watching television, maybe you're watching a Jeopardy on TV, you may actually start to have this dreamlike hallucination that you're actually a contestant on the game show. And you may actually think that you're answering questions as you hear them on the TV set. So this is kind of an interesting phenomenon. It's not technically a dream state because we're not in a state of REM, but it is like a dream state hallucination. And this is also going to be very common when people have sleep attacks. So when people have narcolepsy and have daytime sleep attacks, they'll experience these types of hallucinations during their sleep attack. So that's stage one. Moving on to stage two, what's going to happen here is a person becomes a little bit more moving into a state of sleep. So we refer to this as light sleep. You're sleeping more soundly at this point, but still certain type of stimuli can easily wake you up. So maybe you hear a dog barking, maybe you hear a car driving down the street, maybe the neighbors next door turn up their radio. Those type of stimuli can wake you up. And what happens is for the light sleepers out there, when you wake up 2, 3, 4 times at night, it's usually going to be in stage 1 or 2 sleep that you wake up. And when you see light shining in through your window or you hear noises outside, those type of stimuli can easily awaken you. And this is what's referred to as a sleep spindle, because what's going to happen is that your brain is going to respond to these different types of environmental stimuli. And so if you're very sensitive to light or to sound, those types of stimuli can easily waken you up. Also, in other cases, for example, if a mother just gave birth to a baby, you'll notice that she easily awakens whenever she hears the baby moving or crying or making any type of sound. So we can be very sensitive to specific type of stimuli depending on, kind of our biology, if you will. And also, in some cases, if you are, for example, a policeman or a fireman, you may not want to live near a hospital because the sound of the sirens can easily waken you up. So that's what's going to happen during stage 2. Now what's going to happen is in stage 3, the brain is going to make a transition from light sleep into deep sleep. And basically what's going on in the brain is that we have different types of brain waves that occur during each of our different stages of sleep. And so they're going to make an adjustment from what's known as a theta wave into a delta wave. And also, a lot of times when people have sleep disorders, it's caused because we're not able to make these transitions very easily from one type of brain wave to another type of brain wave, or from a light state of sleep into a deep state of sleep. So depending on the person, this can last maybe an average of 15 minutes. And then we're going to move on to stage 4, which is going to be the deepest stage of sleep throughout the night. This is where it's going to be very difficult to waken up a person. But if you are wakened up, you're going to be kind of dazed, disoriented, confused because you're in a deep state of sleep and you're suddenly waking up. So it takes time to kind of adjust to that. And what's interesting about that is that most of the sleep disorders that we suffer from are going to occur during this stage of sleep. And so one common one that you run into is sleepwalking. A lot of kids will tend to sleepwalk. And you may have heard rumors, well, you shouldn't wake up your kids if they're sleepwalking because, terrible things are going to happen to them. That's not technically true. Well, what's going to happen is that if they are walking in their sleep, suppose they go into the kitchen, they open up the refrigerator, they get a glass of milk to drink, and you wake them up, they're going to be dazed, they're going to be confused, they're disappointed, they don't know why they're there. And so then if you make a big deal about it, then they get all upset and they start crying, and then you got a problem. So what we'll find out is that the easy solution to that is that if they're sleepwalking, just turn them around, send them back to the room, put them back to bed. They probably won't even remember it the next morning. And also, if you're going to be getting up early to go on vacation, for example, and you're going to be going on in your car on a trip, you don't want to wake up the little kids, because if you do, they're going to have this phenomenon where they're confused and dazed and disoriented. So the easiest thing to do is just to, when they go to bed at night, put them in some sleep clothes, or maybe the clothes you want them to wear in the car the next morning. Just pick them up, carry them in, buckle them up in the car, and take off, and just let them keep sleeping. And that way you don't have to worry about any types of problems with that. But a lot of our sleep disorders that we're going to be talking about soon will be occurring during stage 4 sleep. And then finally, stage 5, this is also known as paradoxical sleep, because this is also a very deep state of sleep, but our brain is very, very, very active. And our brain is not active due to external stimuli, but is due to internal stimuli. And that's going to be based on our dreams. And so what's going to happen during stage 5 sleep is we have our dreams here. It's a very deep state of sleep, so that's why many people don't remember their dreams in the morning, because they're in a deep state of sleep. And most people don't wake up in stage 5 sleep. They're going to wake up in either stage 1 or stage 2 sleep. And so you're just going to sleep right through the dreams. But everyone does dream, because we do have the rapid eye movements that occur during this stage of sleep. Also, a lot of people say, well, if I'm sleepwalking, am I acting out a dream? The answer to that question is no, because when you are sleepwalking, when you are dreaming, you actually have a loss of muscle tone, which means you can't move your muscles. And that's why sometimes if you have a really bad dream, like the chasing dream or the falling dream or something like that, you'll wake up because you have a very strong emotional reaction. You're breathing heavily, you could be sweating and so on, but you're waking up because you're trying to move your arms. You're trying to reach up to grab something to help you stop your fall or whatever. But because you have a loss of muscle movement, those movements are very difficult to do, and in turn, that usually is what wakes you up. So, anyways. And also we have what's known as REM rebound. So what happens here is that if we deprive ourselves of REM sleep, if we only get 1 or 2 hours of sleep at night and we totally skip over our REM state, what's going to happen is the next night when we fall asleep, we're going to quickly move into a REM state and catch up on the dreaming that we missed the previous night. That's why a lot of people will report that they're more likely to have dreams when they've been sleep deprived if they take a nap the next day than on a normal night's sleep. So anyways, that's just some basic information about the sleep cycles. And so you'll be able to read more about this in the textbook. But if you guys have any questions, be sure to post them on our Canvas discussion board and I'll answer them there. All right, talk to you guys soon.